please help me in welcoming Rick Tumlinson to the stage.
Welcome to the revolution. My name is Rick, or depending on when you were at the party last night, the Headless Spaceman or Aquaman. Ask the people at your table. But after my dive in the jacuzzi, I do have that tingly, fresh feeling. So I appreciated that. That was just wonderful. You know, it was interesting. I was trying to decide what I was going to talk about today. And originally I'd said I was going to, because this is the 50th anniversary year of Kennedy's speech saying we were going to the moon. And I thought, well, 50 years into the future, and we've had some people like Bill Bolden and others in the foundation who've been sort of talking back and forth about we need to get back to the vision, get back to the O'Neillian vision. I thought I would talk about the next 50 years of what's going to happen. So in other words, Kennedy plus 100. And then, of course, finally, I looked at the agenda, and I realized that this afternoon, Pete Warden, Chris McKay, and myself are going to talk about the future. So, oh, well, that one went out the window. And so then I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to talk about space settlement and really get down to the meaning of space settlement. Well, Jim Muncie yesterday gave us the vocabulary lesson on space settlement. So I have no clue until about 30 minutes ago what I was going to talk about. I still don't, but I'm going to fake the rest of the speech. It is true, though. In 1961, John F. Kennedy pointed us into space. He laid out a vision, he laid out a goal, he laid out a very short timeline, given the context of the culture at the time. And he said, we're going to do it. He said it with certainty, and he said it in a way that the culture brought into it, and the culture went out and performed and did it. In 8 years, we were on the moon using slide rules. It was amazing. It was an incredible achievement, and we did that. Now, what's interesting is when you get in, and who would have predicted that we could have pulled that off? Of course, when you get in the predicting game, things can start to change. You know the term vectors. The vector can start taking you off a little bit, and a little bit of change here starts heading you off in a very big direction the further down the line you get. And who could have projected the trajectory of the space program at that time? Who would have known that the vector would have gone so far off that it would have turned into a complete circle, so that the space program did eventually start going in circles and ended a few weeks ago, a few hundred or 1,000 meters from where it began, with wheel stop on the shuttle. That's what happened. You know, I've said in an article recently that there's a generation that believes we didn't go to the moon. The reason they don't believe we ever went to the moon, the prime reason, is not a Fox TV special. It's because if we went to the moon, why the hell aren't we there now? Okay, that would kind of solve the, you know, there wouldn't be a debate at that point. If you're getting long distance calls from your friend who's working on, you know, the South Pole. But we did go. And the program, yes, it did go in circles, but the program did leave something behind. It left you all behind. It brought you all into being, is a better way to put it. As I've said also, the concept to me, I know we did a documentary called Orphans of Apollo, but actually, we are the children of Apollo. And that's what it left behind. That was the takeaway. That was what was given to our society, was a new level of dreamers. And we had to go through a lot of disappointment, and we came back around full circle ourselves and began to create the next movement that is going to open the frontier at last. And we're here, and it's happening. And everybody at this conference fits into that description. You are the children of Apollo. You are the children of that dream. Now, the foundation is definitely one of the children of the dream. We helped start a movement, along with a lot of our friends. Again, they're here. We all came from Jerry O'Neill. We used to, as I said before, we used to call ourselves Jerry's children, Jerry's kids. And you know, he gave us permission to dream, and we did. And a lot of us went out and did. And we're doing, and we're making things happen. And we're hopefully cutting a path that allows other people to make things happen. And that's an exciting thing. It's a privilege, an honor, and a huge responsibility. Now, some people think we've won. We haven't won. We haven't won anything. In fact, all we've really won is the right to be on the field and play the game. That's it. That's it. We are just being allowed out from under the bleachers so that we can get out there and see what we can do. That's what's happening right now. What's interesting is we do have sort of a vision, but we really don't have a game plan. We don't have a direction. We don't have a real strategy for winning. And to many of us, there are different descriptions of what winning even looks like. And then that's just in this room. That's just in this building. When you step out of here, the rest of the culture has no freaking clue what winning looks like, what the destination is, what the vision is. Jim touched on that yesterday. Space settlement, that's our goal. Culture doesn't buy that yet. They don't understand it. And as you project circles outward from this circle, further and further out, that diminishes. They get it here when it's explained to them and when it's shown to them. But as a tangible goal, as something they're pushing for, something they want to see, something they define their culture by, that visible, I am part of a culture that's doing this, it's not there. We're part of a culture that tweets and Facebooks. That's a definition of who we are right now. World War II, we were a culture that was at war. During the Apollo program, we were a culture that was going to the moon. Right now, we don't have a defining activity by which we can say we are a culture that is doing that. And that is what our job is. So we have to, if we're going to create a future, we have to design it. We have to agree on it, and then we have to go out and we have to sell it. Or at least, maybe not sell it, but find in our friends outside of this room the place where it lives and bring it forth so that they can share it with us. Because I do believe it is an innate human drive, and it is there. It just needs to be brought forth. It needs to be brought out. One of the things we have to do, too, is start looking at the tools we have at hand and not necessarily confuse those tools with the destination or with the path. We do have tools at hand. We have NASA, for example. And I really want to thank our hosts. And by the way, I had several people come up to me. It was just hilarious. Several people have said, you guys are mainstream. You guys have become mainstream. I was like, no, we didn't. The stream moved. We now, though, have to move ourselves and pull that stream a little further over. So let me take a shot at that right now. You know, NASA is an incredible thing. You know, I was looking out this window and I realized NASA's a lot like this hangar behind us. You know, from a distance, it's an impressive and imposing structure that at one time housed the most advanced technology of its day and is now empty and an edifice. It's a hollow and empty shell that stands in the middle of a community that is advancing forward on a great series of technological leaps and advances. And it's a facility that badly needs repurposing. And that's where we stand right now. We are at a pivotal moment. Oh, and by the way, in lieu of repurposing, until we do our job as an organization and as a movement, other people are quite happy putting it to purposes that they would like, well, things they want to see done. So what do we have in that realm? Well, we have people bringing home the pork. I mean, that's a good purpose for it. If nobody else is going to make it do anything useful, at least I can get some money out of it. At least I can pump something into my district. At least I can pay back on some lobbyists. And so that's what's happening right now. Not that I'm cynical about Washington. Yeah, that's Jim's job. Jim lives there. No, you know, it's interesting too. I love this. I mean, I love this. You know, we're in this. The partisan thing that's going on is hilarious to me. I mean, we have Democrats, and I can understand Democrats supporting a socialist space program. Okay, you know, Fox TV will tell you they are socialists. So, you know, that's it. They're socialists. So I can understand them doing it. What makes me crazy is watching Republicans support a socialist space program. Republicans who will, in one committee room, vote against socialized medicine, walk down the hall, go into another committee room, and vote for socialized space. It's insane. It's crazy. Somebody, I think it was Jim actually, was talking about this at one point. And I mean, it's real hypocrisy. And where does the hypocrisy begin? 60 miles up. 60 miles up, free enterprise Republicans turn into socialists. And many of them, unfortunately, are from my state. Okay, Bailey. Anyway. So it was a lack of purpose, with a lack of vision, with a lack of a goal, as Jim was talking about yesterday, of human settlement. We have no yardstick by which to gauge what we're doing. We have no destination towards which we should be vectoring. So it's quite easy to drift off and go here and there because other people are grabbing the wheel, other people are grabbing the steering mechanisms and taking us to where they want to go, which is not where we want to go. So we have to really begin to grab that wheel, to grab that stick, whatever it is you're steering by, and take it where we want to go. It means we're going to have to fight some near-term battles. And I'm addressing this to the young people in the back of the room. Actually, should be the people in the front of the room, because this is your job back there. And by the way, if you see anybody with a little red badge on that says volunteer, tell them what you think of the conference. If it's good. If not, come tell me. We'll have a discussion. No, but seriously, these people are the ones doing this. There's ISU, SEDS, all of the young people out there that are working on this. It's amazing. One of the great things I've heard this weekend. Yes, let's do it. Yeah, absolutely. One of the great things I've heard this weekend is how many young people people are seeing at the conference. And I think that's an incredible thing, and I'm really excited. Because that was actually, that's all coming from the same movement. You know, ISU, SEDS, Peter, Todd, Bob Richards, you know, Bob, all of us. We actually worked to make that happen, to actually bring in this new generation. Now we're putting y'all to work. Now it's time to grab something and hit the barricades. So we have to get out there and do something. There are some things that have to be done right away. As Mark Sarangelo said, I think it was like he was saying that basically we're talking about how to save the American space program. And I don't mean DOS program, I mean the people's program. And they're dedicating something like 2% of the NASA budget towards that right now. The rest of it's going into things like the Senate launch system. Senate launch system must die. The Senate launch system must die. Okay, by the way, I'm speaking for me, not the foundation. There's no compromise to me. NASA must buy the ride, not the rocket. From now on. That is fixed and immovable. That is something that gets us in this direction. Anything else pulls us over here or over here, and we will go in circles until the budget dies and people have lined their pockets and another program dies, and 3 or 4 years from now we're going, I told you so. I told you so. As the next program starts to keep that same standing army going in the next project that's not going to fly, instead of moving them down the street where they're going to be employed by Sierra Nevada or Orbital Sciences or ATK and their new vision. By the way, I want to mention something. I want to thank the people from ATK for being here. Why? And I have some interesting opinions about certain technologies. But you know what? It's not my job to pick winners once you're in the game we're talking about. When you're in the game of being involved in the NewSpace movement and you're actually out there working, trying to win a contract, it's not my job to say whether I like this booster or this technology or whatever. I celebrate the fact that you're entering, that you're getting involved, and you're going to try and do something. I just want to mention that. I don't know where you're sitting, but I'm glad you're here. And thank you for coming. Then we have Orion, or what I call the tail end of Constellation. The MPCV, CVBV, let's just call it the anti-American alphabet soup spaceship. That's actually a lot of letters. Just let's call it the alphabet soup spaceship, ASS. That's good. I like acronyms. It must end. It must end. Okay, I personally have no problem with the traditional space establishment working on vehicles that carry you from planet to planet or space to space beyond LEO, for now, until we get commercial firms operating in that realm. I have no problem with that part of it. But don't tell me you're building a vehicle that's supposed to carry astronauts to the surface of Mars and then put a launch escape tower on it so you can fly to ISS. That tells me you don't believe in the American people. That tells me you don't believe in American industry. That's your backup plan, which unfortunately competes with the business plans that you're supposedly betting on. Speaking of that, CCDev, COTS, these kinds of things that are going on right now. Mission creep. You know what I would almost rather see CCDev end. COTS, end, over, cancel it. If you're going to creep it and creep it and creep it and creep it to the point where the free enterprise companies can't operate in the way that they need to operate to do it right, to really lower the cost orbit, to really do things efficiently, and you're going to creep it and you're going to get in there because you're control freaks and we're NASA and we know how to do it and you don't, and you're going to go in there and tell them what color to paint the inside of their capsules, and then it collapses and then you can step back and say, see, they couldn't do it. No, don't do that. Cancel it now if you're not going to do it right. I prefer you do it right, frankly, but let's do it that way. And then, I don't even need to talk very much about this one. You know, in MirCorp, we worked with the Russians, and I love the Russians. They're great. They kept their word with us. They were great partners. They did what they said they were going to do. They performed, and they outperformed everything we wanted. So this isn't about the Russians. But outsourcing American space transportation to the Russians is insane. It's not like this is a surprise. The shuttle was scheduled to be canceled 7 years ago. And I have like Kay Bailey Hutchinson walking into Texas, we didn't know, you know.
Is she really saying she doesn't know how to read?
No, she just doesn't know how to read. The admission would, you know, that takes her down a path of actually having to do something about it. No, that's what's happening. And it's absurd. It's absurd. While we have companies here who could do it, if the budget was more than 2%, if the right budget was put in place, if the right contracting mechanisms were put in place to where they can do what they do best, American vehicles would be carrying American astronauts to the space station within 2 years. I would almost bet my life on that, for what that's worth. But I would. That's what we have to do. But again, we don't have a roadmap. We don't have a destination. We can't say where we're supposed to be vectoring to. So those people out there who don't get it, they're not doing anything wrong in their book. They don't have anything to compare it to. They don't know that the goal of the United States should be human settlement. And that takes me to the next point. The goal of the United States in space should be the permanent settlement of space, period. That's why a human space program should exist. If that's not the goal, cancel it, let's send robots. I love robots. I love that stuff. I think that's fantastic. I love Hubble. I love all of the Saganite type stuff. I love that. But if we're about human beings being in space, then we have to have a program that lines up with that when it comes to sending humans to space, or let's not even do it. Human beings, I believe, are designed, are destined, are created to expand into new realms. And I believe the United States, given our history, our culture, and our potential, should do that. Now, could other countries do that? That's great. I'm not saying nobody else should do it or anybody else is capable of it. I live here. I'm from this country. I feel it. I'm in this room full of people. I'm seeing you guys, and I just believe that's the way it should go. Everybody else is welcome based on the merits, not because so-and-so needs to sign a treaty with so-and-so to balance out a favor that so-and-so did to so-and-so, and we'll pay for it, because that's not going to work. You're based on the merits. If you do something good, you're involved. If you're involved and you can contribute, then you're more involved, and then we go from there. So what do we have? What we have is NewSpace. That's the other tool we have. Now, we have some disagreements back and forth internally as to what NewSpace means. One thing that, to me, the way I look at it, is that NewSpace is a way of doing business, and NewSpace is an industry that's doing business in a new way, and NewSpace is an industry that's doing business for a purpose. To me, a NewSpace company is a company that's built, formed, operated by, funded by, or has as part of its business plan the opening of the space frontier and making a profit while doing so. That's for me. NewSpace is important. NewSpace is critical. But to me, just to me, NewSpace is the engine. NewSpace isn't the destination. NewSpace isn't the movement. It is the industrial engine that will power the movement. And unfortunately, in the last few years, a lot of us have gotten so focused on the engine that we're forgetting the direction that we need to go, forgetting about telling people about that direction. It is maybe not as bad as the way the traditional space program is operating by driving forward, looking in the rearview mirror. Won't get you very far. But all of us with our heads stuck under the hood trying to fix the engine doesn't take us as far either. We need to fix a direction and go for it. New space industry will get us there if given the chance, and if we make it clear where we're going. And our job is to get out there and inform the culture that that's where we're going, and clear the path, and get America moving that way. To get America moving that way, I believe that we need to reinvigorate the Space Settlement Act of 1988. It needs to come back. Young people in the back of the room, organize yourselves if you want, and if you believe in it, go look it up, the Space Settlement Act. Put yourselves together and go out there and see if you can make it happen. Bring it back. We are at a point of chaos in our space program. That is a perfect time for somebody to come in with a plan. Walk in there with a plan. Next level. If that's what we're going to do on the national vision level, then what we need to do is repurpose our space agency. America's human spaceflight program, as I said, should be based on human settlement. And I believe that we should go in and amend the NASA Act. So it says so. That the purpose of NASA's human spaceflight program is advancing the cause of the human settlement of space. Let's rewrite it. Now's the time. Because that's our goal. That's really our goal. That's why you're here. That's why you come to this conference. It's not because we have some good parties, which we do. Yeah, we do. It's not because of that. It's because you share a dream. Because we all share a dream. And you go out into a world that doesn't understand that dream, and you carry on that dream, and you come back here, and you come back to what I called a couple of days ago at one of the meetings, you come back to the mobile church of space, so that you can be with your brothers and sisters who understand. Hallelujah. Now, I did talk about early on that I had thought about making predictions, but you know predictions. I was reading it. I read something. I wish I had time to dig it out before I started speaking. I read something recently. It was, and somebody can look this up. I'm going to paraphrase it. It was like the guys who were creating the first Boeing liner. And Joe, you probably know these things, Mr. Trivia. But he said, we'll never really need an aircraft that carries more than 10 people. And there's like a whole series of those. I love engineers. I love engineers. But engineers should engineer. I just made 20 friends. No, let's all share the vision. It's a powerful vision. It's an exciting vision. And I think we're going to pull it off. The predictions I'll make are A, within 1 year, the first non-governmental spaceship will carry a human being into orbit. Within a year, by the end of 2012. Within 2 years, the first paying customers will begin flying to the edge of space. Within 3 years, the first commercial space facility will open its airlock. Within 4 years, the first commercial missions will land on the moon. Within 5 years, multiple spaceships will begin serving multiple space facilities, including hotels and laboratories in LEO. Within 7 years, the first commercial customer will orbit the moon and return to the Earth. Within 10 years, the first commercial industrial activities will begin on the lunar surface. Within 12 years, the first expedition to a near-Earth, or to an asteroid or comet core will occur. It'll probably be Phobos Deimos, if I have anything to do with it. Within the next 20 years, or within the next 15 years, the first human will return to the moon. Probably an employee of the company or companies that started those industrial processes. And yes, within the next 20 years, the first human being is going to walk on Mars. And she will be a private citizen who will have flown there on a private rocket. That's what I believe. You can believe anything you want. After 20 years, it starts getting real crazy anyway. I'll be the headless spaceman. However, I do believe this. If we in this room do our job, if you do your jobs, back of the room, if you do your jobs, because you're going to be standing up here in a few years, probably sooner than I think. If you do your job, if we do our job, if we show how it can be done, if we show what needs to be done, if we create a vision and we begin driving our culture towards that vision, if we live that vision, if we invite people in to participate in our vision, to share our vision, to become a part of our vision, and we begin to do it so they can look out their doors or they can look up in the skies at night and see our vision flying overhead, we will transform what it means to be a human being. Within the next 50 years, the definition of what it means to be an American, what it means to be a human being on this planet, will begin to transform into a definition that says, I am part of a species that is expanding into the universe. I can see it. They are there, and they are looking back at me. We are doing it. That is what I am for. My goal is to go into space. My goal is to live into space. My goal is to carry the seeds of life to worlds now dead. Thank you.